your question misses the mark. It is not an issue of relocating people in towns. The issue now is whether we save the planet for our children and our grandchildren. The issue, as you should know, what the scientists are telling us is they have underestimated the threat and severity of climate change. You're talking about the Paris Agreement, that's fine. Ain't enough. We have got to, and I've introduced legislation to do this, declare a national emergency. The United States has got to lead the world. And maybe, just maybe, instead of spending $1.8 trillion a year globally on weapons of destruction, maybe an American president, i.e. Bernie Sanders, can lead the world. Instead of spending weapon money to kill each other, maybe we pool our resources and fight our common enemy, which is climate change.
Thank you, Senator Sanders.
45 years, Americans have been listening to great speeches. And at the end of the day, the average American worker is not making a nickel more than he or she did in real wages over those 45 years. The truth is that real change always takes place. Real change always takes place from the bottom on up, never from the top on down. And that is why in this campaign, I am so proud that we have over 1 million volunteers. We have some of the strongest grassroots organizations. We have raised more individual contributions than any candidate in American history. Please join the political revolution at BernieSanders.com. Let's defeat Trump. Let's transform this country. Thank you.
And
Vice President Biden, I'd like to bring you in. You spent an awful lot of time 10 years ago trying to pass a bill far less ambitious than what Senator Sanders is talking about here. Is he being realistic?
I don't think it is realistic. Let me explain why. I introduced a plan to build on Obamacare. Remind everybody, 20 million people got insurance, didn't have it before. All people with pre-existing conditions were able to be covered. That could go on. We didn't get all that we wanted. But now that it's been exposed, that taking it away has such dire consequences, I've added to the Obamacare plan the Biden initiative, which is a public option, Medicare, if you want to have Medicare, for reducing significantly the price of drugs, deductibles, et cetera, by underwriting the plan to a tune of about $750 billion, and making sure that we're able to cover everyone who is in fact able to be covered. Put your hand down for a second, Bernie, okay?
Just waving to you, Joe.
I know.
Say hello.
I know. So look, it covers everybody, it's realistic, and most importantly, it lets you choose what you want. Here, you have 160 million people who negotiated their health care plans with their employer, like many of you have. You may or may not like it. If you don't like it, you can move into the public option that I propose in my plan. But if you like it, you shouldn't have Washington dictating to you. You cannot keep the plan you have.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. Senator Sanders, 45 seconds to respond.
Under Joe's plan, essentially, we retain the status quo.
That's not true.
no,
That is exactly
right.
true. Thank you. And by the way, Joe, under your plan, you asked me how we're going to pay for it. Under your plan, I'll tell you how we're paying for it right now. The average worker in America, their family makes $60,000 a year. That family is now paying $12,000 a year for health care, 20% of their income. Under Medicare for All, that family will be paying $1,200 a year because we're eliminating the profiteering of the drug companies and the insurance companies and ending this Byzantine and complex administration of thousands of separate health care plans.
Senator Klobuchar, I'm going to come to you.
My name was mentioned.
Yes, I'm going to come to you, but 45 seconds. 45 seconds for Vice President
It's
Biden.
not interrupted here, all right? I'm going to interrupt now. It costs $30 trillion. Let's get that straight. $30 trillion over 10 years. Some say it costs $20 trillion. Some say it costs 40. The idea that you're going to be able to save that person making $60,000 a year on Medicare for All is absolutely preposterous. 16% of the American public is on Medicare now, and everybody has a tax taken out of their paycheck now. Tell me, you're going to add 84% more, and there's not going to be higher taxes? At least before he was honest about it.
Oh, Joe.
It's going to increase personal taxes. They're going to be.
That's right. We are going to increase personal taxes.
Okay.
But we're eliminating premiums. We're eliminating co-payments. We're eliminating deductibles. We're eliminating all out-of-pocket expenses. And no family in America will spend more than $200 a year on prescription drugs.
Okay.
Senator
And
Klobuchar.
yes, our plan will save the average worker far more.
Senator Klobuchar, we'd like to hear from you.
Okay.
Yes, Senator Klobuchar, pay premiums
Whoa,
or
guys.
co-payments. Rather proud, maybe, I don't know, the only candidate up here doesn't have any billionaire contributions. But you know what I do have? We have received more contributions from more individuals than any candidate in the history of the United States of America at this point in an election, averaging $18 apiece. Now, there's a real competition going on up here. My good friend Joe, and he is a good friend, he's received contributions from 44 billionaires. Pete, on the other hand, is trailing, Pete. You only got 39 billionaires contributing. So, Pete, we look forward to you. I know you're an energetic guy and a competitive guy to see if you can take on Joe on that issue. But what is not a laughing matter, my friends, this is why 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half. This is why Amazon and other major corporations pay 0 in federal taxes. We need to get money out of politics. We should run our campaigns on that basis.
Let's make things interesting. Former President Obama said this week, when asked who should be running countries, that if women were in charge, you'd see a significant improvement on just about everything. He also said, quote, "If you look at the world and look at the problems, it's usually old people, usually old men, not getting out of the way." Senator Sanders, you are the oldest candidate on stage this
And I'm
evening.
white as well. Yes.
How do you respond to what the former president had to
Well,
say?
I got a lot of respect for Barack Obama. I think I disagree with him on this one. Maybe a little self-serving, but I do disagree. Here is the issue. The issue is where power resides in America. And it's not white or black or male or female. We are living in a nation increasingly becoming an oligarchy, where you have a handful of billionaires who spend hundreds of millions of dollars buying elections and politicians. You have more income and wealth inequality today than at any time since the 1920s. We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care for all people, which is why we need Medicare for all. We are facing an existential crisis of climate change. The issue is not old or young, male or female. The issue is working people standing up, taking on the billionaire class, and creating a government and economy that works for all, not just the 1%.
There were a lot of good points that he brought up in the debate. Let's break some of them down. Him saying that there's so much money spent on military. The budget just went up to over $700 billion per year. A lot of that money could be used for climate change, combating climate change. We spend more than the next, I think, 9 or 10 countries combined, even though half of those countries are our allies. When people talk about the military-industrial complex, that's why, because you have these weapons manufacturers who are making so much money, and I can guarantee that a lot of those weapons manufacturers are campaign contributors to a lot of politicians. Him saying that real change takes place from the bottom on up and never the top down, and that real wages haven't gone up for 45 years. That's because of inflation. When inflation happens, it benefits the people that are at the top of society. Their wages go up. The values of their homes continue to go up. Their stocks that they purchased and invested in decades ago, that continues to go up. But for people that are just getting by paycheck to paycheck, they are in a worse position now. Him talking about 1 million volunteers on his campaign. Do we realize how huge that is when there's a little over 300 million citizens in the entire country? And a lot of those are kids. 1 million volunteers, and that's not paid workers like Bloomberg and Tom Steyer are buying. And you know those people wouldn't be working if they weren't being paid, because what's exciting about Bloomberg and Steyer? Nothing. Talking about the healthcare plan, where you have $12,000 per year being spent per family when they're making an average of $60,000, 20% of their income. And Bernie explaining, look, under Medicare for all, that's going to be $1,200 instead of $12,000. And he said, yes, taxes will go up, but there's going to be less money that's spent on premiums, deductibles, those types of things. Bringing up the billionaire contributions, Joe Biden 44, while Pete had 39. Understand that Bernie could have accepted billionaire money. He's had billionaires reach out to him. He turned one billionaire away because he wants to be ideologically pure and he wants to be able to highlight and say, I've never accepted billionaire money. Campaign finance is the biggest issue, and Bernie's been pushing for this for a super long time. Understand that gun violence and money coming in from the NRA. Understand that climate change, money coming in from oil companies to politicians, banks paying politicians, campaigns. A lot of the problems that we have in our country stem from campaign finance. We need to get money out of politics. That question that they gave him about being a woman, what did he think about Obama's quote about how men need to get out of the way? What a stupid question to ask him. Of course they highlight him instead of Biden or anyone else on the stage. Understand, a lot of the media companies, they do not provide positive coverage of Bernie because, as he highlights in his book, Our Revolution, they're owned by the billionaire class and his policies are a threat to them. A few things for that. Social conflict theory, people that have studied sociology and agree with that theory, they generally like Bernie. Generally, when it comes to class conflict, this is the biggest gap that we see in society, where the wealthy are doing everything they can to maintain their privilege. Highlighting the idea of Bernie not being a woman, he has no control over that. He's been fighting for these issues to affect average people and working people and make their lives better his whole entire political career. We might as well just ask about things that candidates have no control over. Let's ask about the size of their nose. Let's ask about who has the most chiseled jawline. Things like that. What does that have to do with policy? What does gender have to do with policy? If it's all about gender and age, should we elect, could have elected Sarah Palin back in the day, or we can elect Tomi Lahren because she's a young woman. No, it doesn't matter. He has been fighting for these policies his whole life. Yes, we do want a diverse government. Yes, we do want more women elected, but we never, as Kyle Kulinski noted, we never sacrifice policy for identity. We could even talk about health and fitness. Candidates have more control over their health and fitness than they do their skin color or their gender. A lot of good points that Bernie brought up during the debate. He's continuing to rise in the polls. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and you'll see more on history and politics. Thanks for watching.